Hello, my name is Malcolm Travers, and welcome to M3 Live. Male Media Mind is a grassroots organization dedicated to uplifting and unifying our community through dialogue, insight, creativity, and knowledge. And every Monday, I have lunch with Devon, and we break down some of the issues that surround human connection, things around like relationships, mental health, self development, sometimes politics, sometimes pop culture, whatever it happens to be, and try to figure out how we can be better people to connect better with other people. And yeah, a lot of these topics are kind of sensitive, sometimes personal. So like it's good to have like a testing ground before I reveal them all to the panel. And we have a good time, typically. So what's going on, Devon?
Hey, what's going on, people? How's y'all doing today?
Doing
Hopefully,
good?
hopefully everybody out there is doing good too.
Yeah. So I have a continuation of some of the topics that I presented last week. I didn't always carry over some of the topics over, but I have been doing a lot of reading lately,
hmm
and mainly due to the fact that the AI space is getting really interesting. I don't know if you heard that Google released Gemini 2.0, and it really is giving ChatGPT a run for its money.
Uh-huh.
Um, the multimodal aspects of it are like you can feed it video and audio, and it can kind of understand it really basic level on a basic level.
hmm
One of the things that I think would apply to gaming, for instance, is you can actually share your screen with it, and you can ask it questions about what you're doing in the game. They used a turn-based RPG as an example. Like sometimes you can't just do the math that fast, but if you have an AI sitting next to you, like it can actually do the math and figure out the probabilities of like you doing critical hits or something like that. A lot of
Yeah.
times we just run on instinct, and it's just
Mhm.
like, oh no, you don't have to do instinct anymore. You can just ask. It's like, uh, is this a good time to do this attack? It's like, what should my next move be? It's like blah blah blah, and it'll just talk to you like a regular person. What's even crazier is that you can have another AI in the screen, and it can talk to you and advise you on how to talk to the other AI. And so you can have like a mediated conversation between different models. So like you could have Chat GPT on this screen, and then Gemini on the other screen,
hmm
and Gemini can tell you what to ask Chat GPT. It's kind of crazy. I know I'm going down the rabbit hole. I really love it, but
Hey, yeah, but it's amazing because even when I'm hearing you talk about it, I'm like, wow.
I think what makes it great is that there's going to be a younger generation where all of this is just going to be normal to them. Like my niece who just turned 3, like she's never going to not know a world where this is just normal. You know, um, one of the things that I saw, a tool that came out, was turning, first of all, creating video from images, right? That's something that also dropped from Chat GPT or OpenAI. Dropped this tool called Sora. It's
hmm
been in beta for a while, but it's a video um, generation tool. And one of the things that Sora can do is you can take a video of yourself and then take an image that you either created with AI or, just from a publicly available image or whatever.
hmm
And your image, your likeness is superimposed on that image, right? And you can then direct the movements of that picture. So like let's say you wanted to animate a scene with say Deadpool and Wolverine, right? You and your friend could film a video, and then you are Wolverine, you're Deadpool, and animate a video where Deadpool and Wolverine are interacting with one another. It's not perfect. It's how AI is. It's really weird. It's uncanny valley. It's not quite there yet, but
hmm
just because it just came out this year. So I mean, it's gonna get there. Anyway, going off on that tangent. I'm gonna talk about meaning though. It's something that I've been working on recently. We talked about bullshit jobs a couple weeks ago. and the same author, content creator, was talking about one of the reasons why bullshit jobs can be so devastating,
Mhm.
I guess soul crushing, even when you're being paid well. And it's just something about being human. We want to see our impact on the world. And I'm gonna play this for you.
So, as I've been talking about the book Bullshit Jobs by David Graeber on TikTok, a lot of people have been fairly asking the question, so what? Okay, so people are in bullshit jobs where they don't do anything and they don't have any meaning, but they're getting paid and they're often getting paid a lot. What is the problem? Why are they so unhappy? It's like a really interesting question, right? Do we just want to feel productive? And so when we aren't, we feel intrinsically bad? No, that's not what he says is at the root of the unhappiness with the bullshit jobs. This part blew my mind. So in the early 20th century, a German psychologist discovered that infants, what did he say, express extraordinary happiness when they first figure out that they can cause predictable effects in the world. He gives the example of an infant moving their arms and then moving a pencil, and then doing it again, and realizing that they cause the pencil to move, and they just get such intense delight out of that and satisfaction. And that is called the pleasure at being the cause, that this is part of the human experience. So what happens when we're deprived of the ability to be the cause, to do something? I'm reading here. Experiments have shown that if one first allows a child to discover and experience the delight in being able to cause a certain effect, and then suddenly denies it to them, the results are dramatic. First rage, refusal to engage, and then a kind of catatonic folding in on oneself and withdrawing from the world entirely. That this, quote, trauma of failed influence can literally lead to mental health issues down the road. So then think about it in the context of jobs. He writes, it begins to give us a sense of why being trapped in a job where one is treated as if one were usefully employed and has to play along with the pretense that one is usefully employed, but at the same time is keenly aware one is not usefully employed, would have devastating effects. It's not just an assault on the person's sense of self-importance, but also a direct attack on the very foundations of the self that one even is a self. A human being unable to have a meaningful impact on the world ceases to exist.
Yes. So, yeah, this is one of the reasons why we even have consciousness. I know this sounds like kind of deep and philosophical, but hey, this is this is my wheelhouse. The reason why we even have a sense of consciousness is that in order for us to be independent actors in the world, we sort of create a idea of what separates us from our environment, right? Like the
Mhm.
reality is that we actually are just an extrinsic part of the environment that we find ourselves in. Like every cell in our body, everything that is us came from outside of us. Everything that influences us comes from outside of us. But sort of to have independent agency, we have a series of thoughts and feelings that make us feel different from the world. But the thing is, we long to be connected to the world, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so like, there's a certain intrinsic joy that we get out of influencing the world. And so, like, when you see kids knocking shit over and then laughing, that's just because it's like, look, I did that. Like, I actually have power. Like, yeah, I can do it. And obviously, we kind of get used to that over time, but we never actually lose that need to feel having agency over our lives and over the world. I think this is one of the driving um, characteristics of power structures is to make us feel powerless.
Mhm.
And, like, to control people, you kind of need to make them feel like they don't really have any agency. Um, yeah, we basically we can do anything really, as long
Yeah.
as we're willing to, suffer the consequences or deal with the positive or negative consequences of what we do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we limit ourselves into thinking like, I can't do that, I can't do this. And I think that's one of the other devastating ideas of a bullshit job is just feeling like no matter what I do, the machinery of this large corporation is just going to turn on without me.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just thinking about meaning in general. You know, I think everyone kind of does need to engage in something creative in order to mitigate that sort of mind-numbing monotony of survival. It's like do something with your hands, do something that you do have agency over in a daily basis. Something creative. Even if it says something as simple as cleaning your room, or reorganizing your things, you
Yeah.
know, having it, putting some thought and intention into, where you place things in your room, that sort of idea of feng shui, whatever. I know they're like spiritual practices of organizing. That's for a reason, right? Like I think the way you order your life and your room and your things should be in line with who you are and what you feel yourself to be. That can be a very powerful sense of control that you can have over your environment, because you have that control. Creative projects. I know, like today, I am exhausted from doing the podcast last night. I didn't even finish it. I finished recording it last night, but I had to do the editing this morning, and I was like, oh, am I gonna just not put it out today? Look, I try to do it early. It comes out on Tuesday, but I try to have an early copy for the patrons. And I was just like, all these things, but no, I got up, and as much as I hated it, I felt so good when I finished. I was just like, oh. So no, I'm just putting that out there. I really hope anyone who's feeling stuck or in a job they don't like, or in a place in their life they don't like, to grab hold of something that you do have control over.
Yeah.
Exert some agency over what you have control over. Take delight in what you create.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's not perfect. In fact, I think perfection is an illusion anyway. Nobody likes perfect.
Yeah.
Nobody likes perfect.
Yeah. Just like I can attest to that, because even with me working on my channel more so diligently than I have of late, because I came out of I was going through a big bout of depression that
Yeah.
it didn't even, okay, so depression has many levels. And this bout was bad, but it's not the worst my depression has ever been, but it was bad to the point where everything just felt very monotonous, because I had
Yeah.
other things going on in my life, and it was just like, okay, when do I actually get a time and a break to actually just kind of decompress and deal with shit? But yeah, but yeah, so I eventually got out of it, or I just found some peace in things that I do. And
Yeah.
just like, okay, I'm finding some joy again. So I've been working on my channel
Yes.
more so diligently than as of late, and as I'm learning new things, even with thumbnails and even with titling and stuff like that. I'm excited for this. Like, look, it's
Yeah.
not perfect, but I'm working at it. So that's making me feel so so good and so happy. It's like I'm working at this, yes, and learning this and that. And the only thing I have to the next thing I'm going to like start doing is editing. Like, I've
Yeah.
never edited anything, so I'm hoping I can go back and just look at some of my old videos and be like, how can I? I'm gonna take one of my old ones and just use it as a test subject. Like, okay, how can I edit this?
Yeah. I'm definitely interested in your journey on that, because I'm trying to figure it out myself. I'll tell you, like, one thing I found interesting. I think I sent you a video about it. I got one of these little number pads.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like this thing right here costs what, $10 on Amazon? Yeah, I think you could even find a cheaper one, because this is actually a name brand Logitech.
Okay.
Right? You could probably even find one for like $5. But
Yeah.
you connect it with a USB little dongle. It's
Mhm.
wireless. Just put a AAA battery in it, and what you can do is you can have extra keys in addition to your number pad on your regular keyboard, and those
Mhm.
can be hot synced to the different scenes that you have,
Okay.
and that way you can switch between scenes. And one
Oh.
way that you can make editing easier on your channel is to create symbols or signals for you to cut in certain places, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you do something really amazing. You can do like a little like clap like that.
Oh,
And then you'll see it in the waveforms when you import it.
mm,
And you'll see the
okay.
clap and then you can cut it there and you can know, okay, I'm gonna cut here, and then see how far back I want to go from this point, and then that can be what I keep. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
like if you want to save some of your most best plays, your best actions, like oh that shit was awesome, cut here, clip,
Right. Yeah.
and it's best to learn by doing. And
Yeah. It really
there's
is.
just one of the things I think is funny is it's amazing how fast time flies. And sometimes we look at that as a negative thing, like oh where's the time gone, I missed all of this, whatever. But you can also see that in the positive sense that if you put in just a little bit each week, learn one new thing, and
Mm-hmm.
edit one video, make one stream, whatever it may be, and just be consistent in it, whatever it may be, making sure that you enjoy the process and not necessarily um, be striving to improve so much. You're going to see so much progress build up over time, and that will go by so fast. It'll go by it's like this week I'm trying to build a highlight reel for Greg. He's coming back for a year in review,
Okay.
and I'm trying to find scenes from the past year. So much stuff.
I know, right? That's why. That's one thing that I thought to swag about
Mm,
doing for an outro for us. But I'm like, it's a lot. Cause look, but the one thing I am kind of like a little envious of Cream is that
mm.
he knows what seasons he's in. I don't know where we on the blur. I'm like, what season are we in now? So you know what? I just go by. You know what? So 2024 is about to end. So the next season is 2025. But at
Yeah,
least
pretty much.
Cream knows what season he's in. I'm just like, you know what? I hate you for that, but it's such a good thing too at the same time. Like,
Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't know. I for my podcast, I do episode numbers, but
mhm,
there are huge gaps where there were like
okay,
6 months where I didn't put out anything, and then
yeah,
um, but yeah, seasons are cool.
hmm
I think it's also kind of it's arbitrary though. I'm doing a lot of reading, and I was thinking about how people number the chapters of their books can be widely different. Like I'm reading a series right now. I got to book 2 of the Convergence series. The first one was called No Gods, No Monsters. Now I'm reading We Are the Crisis. And
mm,
even just between these 2 books, the way that the author divided up the chapters is quite different. Like in the first book, the chapters were very short. Um, I'm listening to it on an audio, and I will listen to about an hour at a time and then clip it and save it for myself to leave there listen to later or take notes on.
hmm
And in the first book, 10 chapters was the equivalent of 3 chapters in the other book. you know and so I don't know, it just has a different pace or whatever. I mean, it really is up to you, and I don't know if it really, seasons to me matter, but it's kind of like whatever
yeah,
you like. Yeah.
yeah. But I think for my outro, we're just gonna take. I told them that my plan is to like one day before we either before or after we cast. I'm not sure because or maybe during. I'm like y'all just do something silly on camera for like a couple of seconds or a minute or something. We're gonna put that in there too because it's gonna be like I want it to be kind of like a montage of them doing separate things and then it's saying their name kind of like that like like
Mhm.
give it kind of like a bit of a superhero kind of outro or intro s kind of thing where they see them doing different things and then says their name.
Yeah.
So I'm like that would be a cool outro. Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go in that direction. So I'm like, you know what, y'all do something stupid, silly, make silly faces for like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, for a minute or so y'all can get some, just that kind of thing.
Right. I mean, it's also, you can note some of the things that are they're known for doing visually.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think we all kind of have certain patterns of or expressions or things like that you could probably find pretty quickly
Yeah.
once you start paying attention to it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, it is that is a good idea. So I'm gonna move on to the next one. I'm gonna talk a little bit about intuition
Mhm.
and why we think differently about things. How we think differently about different cognitive processes. Because I think a lot of times when we talk about intuition, people get really quickly into the metaphysical, you
Mhm.
know, like psychics and mediums or things like that. And, I think, I guess, to each their own, because I think mental processes themselves, thinking and feeling, could in themselves be almost considered mystical, especially if you um, take it into the realm of like thinking about artificial intelligence. I was
Yeah.
just listening to a conversation about like how what we know if a robot is actually intelligent or sentient, and so sentience itself is almost mystical and magical. But I think in terms of physical processes and
Mhm.
intuition being a physical process, I'm going to play this right here and we'll talk about it.
A lot of people are asking about intuition and what intuition is. So, for instance, pretend you're at a decision point and you make a decision and you don't know why, but something compels you to make a certain choice, right? And then a series of events occurs and you realize, wow, that was the perfect choice, everything worked out. If you go back to that moment very deeply, you might realize that you actually knew this thing and that thing and this thing and all these little data points you were actually taking in. Your body was taking it all in, right? Your unconscious mind was taking it all in, but your conscious mind wasn't. It was too fast. Your unconscious mind is going so fast, your conscious mind is not aware of it, right? And as a result, your unconscious mind led your conscious mind to make that decision, okay? Based on the data points your body was taking in. Now, the decision that is made by your unconscious mind, your body, is going to be based on either fear, survival, life and death, or connection, love, growth beyond life and death. Okay? That's the thing. How do you train your body? How do you train your unconscious mind to know the difference between the two? That involves a lot of somatic work. Meditation can help. Dance, acting classes. There's ways to work around it. Ways that don't necessarily seem logical, but that might be the way to do it. Because one of the big takeaways from a lot of the research I've done on PTSD is that you can't solve it logically. There's no amount of talk therapy that can really do it a lot of times. It's not effective at all. It can even hinder the process. Because really the body needs to feel safe again. There's a book called Body Keeps the Score. It explains a lot of this stuff. How we're disconnected from our bodies because of trauma. So reconnecting to your body on a somatic level, helping your body understand that it's safe, will help you raise up your intuition, your deep sense of connection, and your unconscious mind's ability to seek out connection. That is intuition. And that will emerge the more you're able to trust yourself as you are, the more you're able to know your body and what it feels, what it means when it feels certain things. Get to that. Get your body to feel safe, and then your intuition will begin to emerge on its own.
So what he means by on a somatic level is that emotions and thoughts have physical substrates.
Mhm.
So I just thought about when you, one thing to ask yourself when you may be going into depression is how does it feel in your body?
Mm.
For me, one of the earliest signs of depression is not being able to wake up early in the morning. Like I typically get up around 6:30, and then am I how awake do I feel? How much energy do I have? I
Right.
think it's also found in how satiated I feel when I eat because I tend to eat my feelings. So, like, if I ate this amount of food, how long did it make me feel full? And recognizing that, certain emotional states make me want to eat more. I think there's also what he was saying, that we try to deal with all of our problems logically, think our way through problems. And let's be real, logic is very, very nice to have. And it can lead you in the right directions.
Mm-hmm.
But the logic that our minds, engage in is based in our body.
Yeah.
One of the, best, um, one of the best sort of rhyming, I don't even know what you would call it, idioms or whatever memes that I've heard about mental health is that our issues are in our tissues. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
That they are physical things.
Mm-hmm.
Now we think of our mind as something out there ethereal or something, but if you have certain issues, it's a physical thing in your body. And so, like, part of dealing with your issues is getting in touch with your body. And so they talked about things like acting and dancing and working out and you know, um, yeah, anything that engages your body, where you get in touch with your body and really feel your body, like yeah, um, because it is a real thing. Meditation is definitely about feeling your body and your connection to everything. Usually, a lot of meditation begins with the breath, because I think why that's important is there are a lot of things that your body does that
Mm-hmm.
we identify with who we are, right? Like if you feel a certain thing, if you think a certain thing, you think, I thought that,
Right.
I felt that, I did that.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't make as much sense as, say, do you beat your heart? You know, do you
Mm-hmm.
breathe your lungs? Are you really thinking? Are you consciously responsible for any of that? Like, try to control every thought that you have. It's just impossible. Thoughts just arise. Is that you thinking those thoughts? You know what I mean?
Right.
And then you can kind of separate this sort of I don't know, agency, this sort of responsibility for your feelings and thoughts, and realize, like, these are just things that happen. And what I need to do is work on being more capable of dealing with what happens. I'm thinking about, like, people who have injuries or disabilities and relearning their body. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we think, wow, that was amazing. It's amazing to see someone, like, learning how to walk again or something, after an injury, or
Some kind
like
of
like
like
a stroke or something, or car
yeah.
accident. And they really do have to, like, okay, I have a different body now, and now I have to get in touch with it. And there usually is a commiserate improvement in people's mental health as well. Some people call it
Yeah.
post-traumatic growth. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's post-traumatic um, disorders, clearly, like, where people relive the accident over and over again. But there is this really, what some people call anti-fragility, where breaking something makes it actually stronger.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I just consider that. Like, um, I would like to get more into dance. This is something I've considered. Like, I feel like I have two left feet, and I feel really embarrassed whenever I want to dance or whatever. I think you can start with just, like, videotaping yourself dancing, to your
Oh
favorite,
yeah.
whatever. I kind of may talk myself into doing that. I am going through my Spotify Wrapped right now, and
Oh yeah.
just kind of looking at what my songs of 2024 were. Unfortunately, they were many of the same songs that were 2023, but whatever.
And that is totally fine.
It is. It is. 'Cause I do
'Cause
love these songs. I listen to them over and over. I
oh
do.
yeah, 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 yeah. Because I mean, I think we all have a certain amount of songs that we listen to over and over again. Um, Especially the ones that like help us through our issues that we're going through, and or there was like a pivotal moment where the song meant so much to me, as something I was going through, in my life. So I
Yeah.
get it, you know. And there was nothing wrong with listening to the same song over and over again. Sometimes we have to.
Yeah.
Like if that song give you that empowerment that you need for the day, like I gotta go to work, so let me get myself mentally prepared for what I gotta do, or I gotta go do this or do that, or you know, I mean, shoot, there were songs that I work out to that I just be like, you know what, this song gives me exactly what I need when I need it, so I'm gonna listen to it.
Yeah, for sure. That's typically the area in which I listen to music the most. Sometimes when I'm cooking or cleaning,
Hmm.
but yeah, definitely working out gets me through. And yeah, and I was just thinking about like um maybe taking some like basic dancing courses online or whatever, and seeing what I
Hmm.
can come up with. But this is a way that we can get in touch with our emotions, like you said, like um physical movement is a substrate of uh sound as well, right?
Yep.
There's this sort of theory that part of the reason why like rhythm is such an important thing for us is that is a way that we intuitively get in touch with the rhythm of our own body, like our breathing, our heartbeat,
Hmm.
the sounds of other people walking, the sounds of animals moving. Everything in nature kind of has a rhythm to it, and there's something, a sort of delight that we get at recognizing things. You know, so for instance, I'm going to take it back to video games. I play this game Destiny 2, right?
Yep.
And I've been playing it for about 7, 8 years. Because there was a Destiny 1 before there was Destiny 2,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
and there are weapons in the game that are sort of have been there from the get go,
Hmm.
and they have a certain sound. Like each gun was created from some sort of sound engineer creating the sound, right?
Hmm.
And just the other day, someone was using a weapon called Age Old Bond. It came from one of the first raids in Destiny 2. It's one of those weapons that they sunset and then they unsunset, right? So when they sunset the weapon, it was like you can't use it anymore. You can't level it up. So a lot of people deleted the weapon. Um, and in order to get it again, you'd have to play this raid, which is really difficult to get. And so the other day, I was just going through a strike, and I said, "He's got an age-old bond." I can't believe it. Like, I heard the gun. I was like, "Oh, it's a shitty weapon. Oh God, it sucks." But the sound of it just like connected me to all the fun I had grinding for it when it was good. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's just like it took me back. I was like, it's like this sort of deep doo, 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 doo sound.
Right.
Like nobody uses these slow firing auto rifles anymore because they just don't do good damage. But God, it was like a throwback. I was like, oh. Anyway, it's weird how like we connect sounds and movement to memories and vice versa. So
Mhm.
just a suggestion, if you're thinking about a self-improvement journey, improving your intuition, if you're dealing with emotional turmoil, think about, you know, I guess the feelings in your body itself, right?
Mhm.
Getting really primeval. It does better. So, all right. So I got another one. This is going to deal with a understanding emotional regulation,
Mhm.
and this is a content creator who I like. She breaks down things incredibly accurately, very quickly. And this was one of the things I put in my podcast today that I had difficulty talking about because I realized like this is maybe very personal to me. I don't know, because I have some difficulty with emotional regulation. So I'm going to play the video and talk about like the difficulty I had talking about it.
So
Oh.
listen to this if you're looking to expand your capacity. I'm going to give you 4 reasons why you struggle with those negative or bad emotions. And I put it in air quotes because they're not necessarily negative or bad, but let's just jump into it, right? So the first thing is you judge yourself for feeling these emotions. Thoughts like I should be grateful or I shouldn't feel this way, they create inner conflict. And instead of letting emotions flow, you're fighting them, making them heavier than what they need to be. Second reason is you struggle to accept life's realities. Knowing that pain, loss, and hardship are inevitable doesn't make accepting them any easier. Acceptance asks you to let go of control and stop resisting what's happening. It's uncomfortable because you and we want to fix things even when they can't be fixed. And then the third one is you equate pain with weakness. Sadness and grief often feel like personal failures. Thoughts like, why am I still upset? Or I should be over this by now, reflect a bias that sees pain as a lack of strength. But emotions aren't weakness. They're signals asking for your attention. And then finally, the fourth thing is you resist discomfort. Your instinct is to avoid what feels bad, but resistance only amplifies the emotion. And by you trying to push it away, you end up prolonging the pain. Emotions aren't meant to be fixed. They're meant to be felt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is true.
so good. So I think the thing that got me about it was the first one is that you judge yourself for feeling these things in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized like, oh, fuck, I do that.
Look, I think that's something we all have an issue with or struggle with, or whatever word you want to put there. It's like because I think we all grew up with certain monikers. Like you should be grateful for this, or you shouldn't feel that way because it could be worse, or why do you still feel this way after all this time has passed? And
Right.
one thing I've learned through my mental health journey is that there is no time limit on when you shouldn't feel some kind of way about something that happened to you. There was no time limit to where you're healed from it, or how you deal with it, or however long it takes. Like me personally,
Mm.
this goes out funny. So my breakup happened in 2019, right? And it's 2025. And I just noticed that I can actually now have a thought without wishing death upon them. So I'm good, like, or
Trust me, I get it. I
without
get it.
without going to a dark place. And it's just like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm good, uh,
I tell you what, like I am still going through it sometimes. So for instance, I was doing something in my game and there was like a list of codes that I have saved in Google Photos.
uh-huh.
And that album of stuff is organized by alphabet, right?
Mhm.
And so like one of my exes is in alphabetical order right above this folder. And so every time I pass by his photos, I'm just like, oh fuck, like, I don't know what feeling I'm feeling, but I'm avoiding the feeling. Right?
Right. Mhm.
And so yeah, I do kind of recognize that myself,
Mhm.
whether I use it as a diagnosis, like a diagnosed mental health condition, which I do have difficulty with emotional regulation, and I can use those terms or whatever. But it doesn't really matter whether or not you can diagnose it or not. I
Right.
don't resolve a lot of my emotional issues as fast as other people do.
And
And
that's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because I mean, everybody heals at their own pace. Everybody deals with things differently and at their own pace, and that's why I don't. Because I remember when I was going through my breakup, and
Mm.
I had this group chat that I was in, and I was talking about it, and I kept talking about it every now and then. They were like, and then one person was like, "Well, have you considered therapy?" I said, "Yes, I am in therapy as well, but my therapist is not always available, so I come in here to vent and to get things off my chest." And then but the tone they said it in, even though it was like through typing, I kind of feel like a tone like, okay,
Yeah.
we get tired of hearing about you and your shit, nigga. Like go do something else. And I was just like, I said, you know what, I'm gonna stop talking about it here because apparently they're getting tired of me talking about it. And I get it, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm like, if we're, you know, associated with each other in here or friends or whatever, let me just vent, and you can either respond or not. I mean, but this
Yeah.
is just I feel like if this is a safe space, then why can't I express this and deal with this however at the pace I need to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? But the tone that this person was saying, it was like, we tired of hearing about this. I'm just like, okay, well, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go somewhere else then. Like, I'm gonna go find somebody somewhere else safe that I can hear about it. And the thing about therapists is that you can go over the same scenario with them, and they'll probably get tired, but they won't say it or they won't show it. They'll just be like, okay, so why? And I remember when I was in therapy, and the last therapist I had, he was amazing. He was like, well, we could come back to this and revisit this later. And then when we did, he was like, okay, so how do you feel about it now? Or, what's making you revisit it today? And he would never like sit there and look at me like I'm annoying him or I'm being crazy. Because I mean, I know that's what they get, that's what they're there for. But he actually made me feel like I could just go to him and say whatever I'm feeling that day, and he would be like, okay, well, let's go over this. Let's
Yeah.
explore this.
So one of the things I've come to realize about therapy is that they're good at listening. They know how to separate their feelings from other people's feelings, because this is one of the reasons why friends don't want to listen to other friends talk about their problems, is because we have a problem with taking on other people's problems, right? So sometimes when we hear that our friends are in pain or they're going through something, it makes us feel uncomfortable, makes us feel pain. And so like therapists who are trained in, talking people through their pain are good at not absorbing other people's pain, right? And it's their job, and they get a lot of joy out of helping people. The next thing they do, and something I think a good therapist always does, is they give you tools to help you deal with your problems, right? They're not necessarily there to validate them. Like, even if you did something wrong, they're like, okay, this is something that you can deal with, this is something you can do to evaluate these things for yourself.
Right.
And I think that's a powerful thing, because I think, one of the other things that she brought up in this thing was this idea that we often feel that we equate strong emotions with weakness, and so
Yes.
being able to recontextualize that and recognize that it's not weakness. In fact, like, I always put it in the context of people pay good money to feel something when they go into the movie theaters, when they go into a game or music or whatever, and like try to imagine someone who can't feel anything, like how
Right.
diminished their life would be. I think the only difference is how the context in which we find ourselves, right? In a movie theater, crying at a really passionate scene or devastating scene in a movie is considered socially acceptable for most people. Some of these straights might have a problem with it, but whatever.
Right.
But let's say it is desirable, regardless of whether or not it's acceptable. In other situations, it's not, right? Like, and so recognizing the problem with this idea that emotions equate to weakness is that you're taking on the responsibility of the environment that you find yourself in. And recognizing like that's not you making that judgment. That's you absorbing the judgment of the people around you, and saying, like, recognizing that, yeah, as a man in the patriarchy, you're not supposed to be emotional,
Nope.
like, and if you feel that way, it's probably because you passively absorb these norms, because of what you saw and experienced through other people. And one of the other more powerful things she said in here that I agree with is that, emotions are not meant to be dealt with.
Right. They're meant to be felt.
They're meant to be felt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to like sort of follow what your body is trying to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Getting in touch with your body, like we were talking about in the previous video, in the previous topic, and then like following that line of reasoning, whatever processes your body is going through to try to get you somewhere. So like depression, for instance, to me is often a feeling of disconnection, a lack of purpose, a lack of meaning in life generally. Like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? What's the point of any of it? And so depression is asking you to find meaning in something, and to do something that gives you meaning, and and calling me to do difficult things, making myself uncomfortable to do things that give meaning in my life. And so, and those are things you can only learn. A therapist can definitely help.
Yeah, exactly.
Teach you about those things. But at the end of the day, you got to do it yourself. And
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because they'll and you know what? I hate the fact that some people feel embarrassed about going to therapy, or
Yeah.
they'll feel like, well, their friends find out, oh, you in therapy, oh, you must be weak or something, or something's wrong with you. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why not just come to me? Well, because sometimes friends are not good at, like you said, sometimes friends are not good at talking to us about things, and separating their emotions from our stuff in talking to us. So they're not really good at that sometimes. And even I know that because I've experienced that too. And the reason why I think I say therapy, anybody should go to therapy. Go. I don't care what nobody else says. If you feel like you need it, go do it. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with it at all. You
Yeah.
know, do not feel embarrassed, do not feel ashamed, do not because I mean we all need help with something and or dealing with things. And the first step is saying, hey, I need help. I can't do
Yeah.
this by myself. So and recognizing that.
It's funny. I'd never go over here to Instagram. We're streaming on Instagram,
Hmm.
and the comments from Instagram don't come through to StreamYard, so I don't see them. But I just happened to look at this and I wanted to read it.
Okay.
He says, "Hey everyone, I had a bullshit job that paid me 82,000 a year, and it led me to have a nervous breakdown because of it, because of the stress." And
Mm,
that's something to say, like something that leads you into, even when it pays well, is not necessarily something that's good for you. And like I was saying, this is part of boundaries. Separating yourself. If you're in a bullshit job,
right.
there are ways for you to recontextualize your job to give you more meaning. I remember one of the examples they gave were janitors or custodians at a nursing home or hospital, included being, I don't know, almost like a welcoming committee for patients, for instance.
Hmm.
They made it part of their job to, well, first of all, they recontextualized that they are an integral part of the team that heals people. But then they would make it a point to go out of their way to talk to patients and just say, like, "Hi, how you doing?" Be almost like a greeter and make it a part of their daily thing to try to make the patients feel more, at ease, and it gave their job more meaning. You know, Even though that meant more work. Like, yeah, I think you could probably go through and just do what you had to do on a daily basis, or
Hmm.
you could find something that's not a part of your job that just makes you feel better to do it. And you know, there he goes. Okay, so on my last topic, I'm gonna talk about homophobia.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. So it's funny that you go talk about this because I saw a
yeah,
video with Tank and Conscious Lead yesterday talking about homophobia. But what you got? What you got?
yeah. We may be able to talk about that, or maybe we can find it later.
Okay.
This one is from a podcast, and I don't even know who's in this, so maybe they're connected in some way. I don't know, but they were talking about this idea that I think a lot of black men or black podcasters on social media will talk
Hmm.
about how the media, popular culture, is attacking black men's masculinity. That they're trying to push a gay agenda.
This
And
sound
what
like another. I'm sorry. This sound like another. The straights are not okay, but okay.
Yeah, it does. It is. But here's the thing, and something that I'm trying to learn, or trying to teach myself, is that no one's perspective is invalid.
Hmm.
By that, I mean, I can't tell you you don't see something if you say I see something. I could say you're full of shit. I could say you're a bigot. I could say that in objective reality, then all of us don't see what you see. But I can't say that you don't see what you see. You know? And
Yeah.
so if someone says, I see a culture that is trying to push a gay agenda on me, I can't say that they don't see that. the question I have to ask myself is, why do you see that?
Right.
I'm gonna play that, and we can maybe talk about it. Here we go.
For a black man, the worst thing to be called
Yep. It's gay.
is gay.
Yeah.
Like the first thing somebody's going to allude to, whether you are gay or not, when they're trying to assassinate your character
Yep.
or get off the highest joke imaginable,
Yep.
they're going gay first.
Gay or snitch. Or broke. Yeah.
But
But
trying
gay
to figure
being
out-
number one.
Trying to figure out how to make you gay is at the top of that list.
That's a fact.
So it stems from something within our culture. Somehow there's a program to make black men gay. Like you see it everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
There's an attack on,
There's an agenda.
strong black men.
Mm-hmm.
But who's the attack coming from?
Mm-hmm. Do you believe there's an attack?
How?
No, I'm asking. Do you believe
Again, that's my answer.
Oh, how?
How?
As people say it, through media, through fashion, through what's acceptable. Because like, if you think about it, back in our generation, we're the exact same age. We didn't see homosexuality. It's been around since the beginning of time, but it was your auntie's friend, your uncle's friend. But now it's more in your face, more acceptable. It's more mainstream, actually trendy.
The world has gotten smaller. We're actually able to see those humans living out their lives.
So yeah, and I think there is something to be said that there is a, how do you call it, a misconception.
Yeah.
That because you see more homosexuality, there's some sort of intentional, force behind it to turn people gay. Because it is true, there are more people in, the straights' lives who are coming out as gay.
Right.
But then they sort of make this leap of agency, that there's some sort of agenda behind it. I think there's just a natural tendency for people to want to be themselves in public, right?
Exactly. And
they don't get that. I don't know if they don't get that. But let me give you an example before you get into yours. That I'm sure you're aware of the gay kiss that was taken out of Gladiator 2. And so, it is crazy to me that is a thing that they thought was going to tank the movie. They did it probably for financial purposes. This clearly isn't because they felt that it was in bad taste or something. And now it could just be a coincidence. Like maybe there was just too much in the movie. People said that there were a lot of storylines that just didn't really need to be there. I mean, that could be the case. Like it could have been an innocent thing. But then people start making allusions back to the Pelican Brief in the 90s, where Denzel was in a movie with Julia Roberts and they were supposed to kiss. They probably actually did film a kiss that they removed from the movie, and for specific reasons that they felt it would alienate box office goers. It should be noted that the Pelican Brief was a very successful movie. And so even though these people have this concept that gayness is mainstream and that it's being pushed, it's not.
It's not.
If the mainstream movies are if it's a romantic story in a novel and the two leads are gay, it's not a romantic novel. It's an LGBT novel, right? It's in a whole different genre. It's not even right. If the main character in a story is gay, it then gets put into a different genre of books, even if it's just like a mainstream thriller. I'll give you an example, like the book that I'm reading right now. I don't know whether it's in a mainstream thriller or not, but one of the main characters is trans. Is a trans man. And honestly, fucking brilliant scenes because he's trans, right? there was a scene in the book. I didn't even get it because they only mentioned it once or twice. And so I missed the fact that he was at one point a female, like when he goes to his parents' house and, his parents are calling him by the right pronouns and everything. But at one point his dad slips up and, or says something like, "I miss my little girl," or something like that. And it starts this fight. I didn't recognize that that's what he was saying. Just like, I miss you when you were, I miss those years. And well, the funny thing is I don't know if it's necessarily that he misses having a daughter or misses the times when they were younger, they had a better relationship,
Mm-hmm.
There's that level. But there's another level, like he was getting his hair cut at the barbershop. And I didn't recognize that he was trans, and the barber knew that he was trans, but like the other patrons didn't, and they were saying some homophobic shit or whatever. And like that whole scene just had way more tension because this character was trans, And I should note this character at some point becomes a werewolf. It's just like another level altogether. And in order to transform, he has to take off his clothes because he becomes huge and his clothes will be destroyed. So he's just like saying, him and the rest of his pack, when he gets naked, is a little more tenuous because when, now you see that I'm trans, like I have a pussy. But the rest of the time, I'm just a dude. Right. Anyway, but my point being that there are plenty of trans and queer characters in fiction, but as soon as you add those characters, it becomes like a different genre sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's even true of black fiction. Like if most of the characters are black, it becomes a black movie or story,
And then when you add an LGBT person or anything else, it's like they'll just focus on that and it becomes something else completely different. I just be like, it's a comedy, but it's not now that you add this one like for example a black comedy, but when you add the one gay person, that was a black gay comedy. I'm like,
right.
What?
I used to think how do I put this? I used to rail against that sometimes. I remember someone else who was on the show would say that it's not an LGBT story, it's just a story with a gay character. It's like, oh no, it's definitely classified as gay. I would tell them that. And now I kind of see what they're saying. It's like it shouldn't be though. It shouldn't be classified as LGBT story. It's just a story with a gay character. And so I totally am wrong about that now. I get it. But yeah. So going back to the beginning, what I was saying is these straight dudes who commonly believe that there's this attack on black masculinity. I kind of see where they're coming from, even though I think you're wrong and I think you're kind of bigoted and I think you need to make more gay friends. I think you do. Because ain't nobody coming for you.
Right. We are not coming for you. Trust us.
Right. Just kind of trying to have stories that we enjoy, That's really all that shit's about. So on that note,
before we get to the next one, I'm sorry we didn't get to this comment earlier. He's talking about Nate James says, I believe this also the same reason bitterness and unforgiving have more illness and health issues. Yes.
Yeah.
Because what you feel can affect you physically.
Oh yeah. There's no real separation. I mean, obviously there's physical injuries, but the way that we heal from physical injuries have a lot to do with how we think about things.
Right.
Our immune systems operate on a subconscious level, but they are still your body doing things. And so like if your body feels like it's under threat, it doesn't really function the same way as if it feels safe. So yeah. Yeah. On that note, no, I think we're going to go to Patreon. I have one more topic for us, but if you would like to support the Male Media Mind Network, you can go to patreon.com/malemediamind. Become a patron. We have groups on Telegram and Patreon, although we don't, obviously Patreon, but we do have a Discord server, but I have not really learned how to use it yet. And at some point, we'll get a mass of people who do know how to use it. Telegram works great. It's very easily accessible. I post memes and adult content on 3 different groups that are for our patrons, different levels of depravity. On the Patreon page, I also post a video podcast link to our patrons a day early, so that's available now. Most of our shows have Patreon shows afterwards, so that's what we're going to go to now. But we'll have one tomorrow on Swag Show at 7 p.m. Eastern, and of course on mine on Wednesday at 7. Of course, Thursday at 7 now. Cream is back, and of course Saturday at noon. Greg will have the year in recap, and I think he's going to come back on a regular schedule after that. Of course, right below this show on this feed, you can catch Sunday at 5. Devon hosts the Blurred Council, and
Yes.
all of that is available. And so we're going to go to Patreon now. I'm not going to play the credits, even though I do have. Yeah, so let's say bye-bye to Facebook. Bye-bye, Facebook. Bye-bye to Twitch. Bye-bye, Twitch. Bye-bye, Twitter. Fuck you, Elon. Bye-bye, Instagram. And YouTube. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye. Okay. All right. So we are on Patreon now. I got one more topic.
Okay.
I just like to have a little extra for our patrons. This is going to deal with grooming. Grooming and attractiveness. So this content creator does content for men about how to attract women, and he's responding to a comment where he did a video about the fact that our level of agency is one of the most attractive traits to potential romantic partners. I think this is true whether you're talking about straights or gays. And what he means by agency is, how much control do you have over yourself, over your life? How intentional are you about things that go on? And so it's referencing that. And someone was trying to have a comeback to him and saying, like, well, if you care about agency so much, how come your grooming is so bad?
Ooh.
Yeah, no. And so he kind of comes back in a respectful way. I'm going to play it.
If your style and grooming are ways that you can show agency, and agency is a core attractive quality, why am I not better groomed? And the reason is that while these things do show agency, or the fact that you're in some control of your own life, they're not the only way. Within a few minutes of talking to me, it becomes pretty obvious that I care very much and will invest a lot of time and energy into being in control of my own life. And that's both because of the things that I do. If somebody asks what I do for work, this is the answer, but also because of how I talk about doing them. When I worked more normal jobs, I always had a reason for doing that job, either what I loved about it or how it supported me doing something I really cared about. And everything else, down to the music I listen to, the sport that I do, the games that I play, and how I engage with all of these things is very reflective of me and what I care about. So if you're lacking in some obviously attractive quality, but there are other things about you that touch on the same core points, demonstrating that you have those other qualities makes up for it, and often just beats it entirely. This is why it's far better to be charismatic than physically attractive, because both of them contribute to your presence, the experience of being around you, but one of them does a much better job of that. Now, I'm not going to pretend that it wouldn't be better if I did both. And certainly there are plenty of people who are in control of their own lives and pay attention to their grooming. But for me and what's going on in my life, I just don't have the energy right now for the sort of day-to-day tedium of keeping everything nice and perfect. So I'll spend a little more time getting ready for special occasions, but the rest of the time it's on this sort of maintenance mode. And that's the last thing I want to leave you with. It is totally fine if some of your goals, especially things like social skills and fitness, become a slightly lower priority as you're working on something bigger and more important. You don't have to push everything as hard as you can all the time, and in fact you really shouldn't. Just make sure that you don't stop doing these things entirely. Find an amount you can do that at least keeps you roughly where you're at, without costing too much of your time and energy.
Yeah, so I think one of the thoughts that comes to mind when thinking about attractiveness, how would you qualify or quantify non-physical attractiveness, like he calls charisma? I think it's a basic thing. Like, what are some of the aspects of someone's personality, the way they move through the world, maybe sometimes the things they do, the way they walk, whatever, that you would consider charismatic? Now, I personally do like someone who's well groomed, but I sometimes have been turned aback by it too. You know what I mean? When someone
Yeah.
puts a little too much effort in, and I'm just
Mhm.
like,
Like they check themselves out in the mirror every 5 minutes. Okay, that's vanity, but you know, to make sure that they are still put together, like they still look like the same way they did when they left this morning.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it sometimes feels very plastic, like,
Mhm.
like you're a Barbie, a male Barbie.
Not a male Barbie though, but yeah, I get it.
Just a little too perfect.
Yeah.
Um, but I do know people who really do care about their grooming, and I
Yeah.
like it when it's really, it's on point. And then,
Mhm.
and typically speaking, they're fairly attractive people to begin with, but and maybe they do something that looks interesting. It's not carbon copy, cut and paste style, So I think that's something that um I like, where it's a unique expression of who they are rather than just like what's popular at the time.
Mhm.
Um I don't know what other things. Confidence, I think, is probably the first thing that comes to mind
Mhm.
when you think of charisma.
Yeah.
Um Obviously, I think all these things can be taken in too much doses, where charisma can become arrogance.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it definitely can.
That
I've
sort
seen
of
that happen. Like, okay, you're just a. I mean, I love the confidence. Don't get me wrong, but you're becoming a little too confident, and it's becoming off arrogance.
right.
And then you have people like, well, it's not arrogance. It's just me being confident in myself. And I'm like, I get that, but no, there is a difference between arrogance and confidence. There really is.
Yeah. I think the funny thing is, in order to be confident, sometimes you have to not be afraid of being perceived as arrogant. Because I do think that there's, you know, how do I say it, perspective, right? So, like, to someone who lacks a certain amount of confidence, someone with a lot of confidence will be more likely to appear arrogant. Like if
Hmm.
it's so far out of range for them, it either seems like something that is fake or contrived, or cruel sometimes, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it is subjective, and I think sometimes you have to be willing to be disliked uh, in order to be yourself. So
Mm, yeah.
yeah. I'm trying to think what other things. I think here's something that comes up on Swag Show a lot.
Hmm.
Thinking about masculinity, right? So there are certain aspects to charisma for me that are also highly associated with masculinity.
Hmm.
And Swag will do the are the straights okay videos, and sometimes I kind of agree with them. And no, I can't really get much word edgewise. The one that he put last week, I kind of agreed on, the man bag.
Oh.
I don't like a purse on a man.
I don't either. And,
Yeah,
and and I know I'm probably going to get some. Well, we not live. We on
yeah,
Patreon,
yeah.
but
That's why.
but if we were, I would probably get like a lot of flack for what I'm about to say.
Yeah, I would never
Now,
attack anyone for that. I
yeah,
just don't like it.
right, but I don't find over over a lot of femininity in a man attractive at all either.
Yeah,
I can do now when it comes to to certain bags. There are certain ones that I'm like, okay, that's cool. I like that because I like it myself. Like I have what they call it a sling bag, the one you just
yeah,
drape over you when you carry little stuff in it. And like, okay,
yeah,
cool. 'Cause you don't need a if you don't need your whole backpack or something big. It's just like something you need to carry some things in. Okay, cool. But like a whole purse um or I don't know if the man bag is something that I never really felt like that was a bad thing.
yeah,
Like the whole little like the little side satchel or whatever. I think a satchel is fine.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's
yeah,
they make those for, like,
but but when you have a
Nike or
whole Prada bag and calling it, oh, I'm just doing style and fashion. I'm like, okay, that's good for you, but it doesn't work for me,
right.
and I can't
Exactly.
do, girl this, girl that, like 24/7. I can't do makeup. I can't do the long nails. I don't mind painted nails. Painted nails it's fine. Depends on the color. But long nails and you just have to wear like and crossing over to wearing female clothes, it's just like, nah, I can't. I mean, I can be your friend. I can rock with you. Like, but I can't. I don't find it sexually or romantically appealing to me.
Right. And I get where there's a certain amount of persecution of femininity in men
Right.
that makes people very sensitive to just mentioning the fact that, like, hey, there are some things that are masculine, there are some things that are feminine, and for the most part, I think we are attracted to masculine traits and masculine ways of going through the world. I definitely want to make space for my feminine brothers to feel like themselves. I would want to be a safe space for them. But I feel like part of that is to allow me and other people who feel like they're not attracted to that, or that is something not masculine, to just be able to say that without being attacked and jumped on. Like, and I think maybe that means that I have to prove myself to be an ally in other very specific ways, because there are those people who are bashing of feminine qualities and have a visceral negative reaction to it, which I don't. Like, I don't have that sort of visceral negativity about masculine men behaving feminine in feminine ways. Like, I just don't want to pretend like it doesn't exist.
Right. That part. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I do sometimes like ways that people have bucked the trends and done things that are feminine in male space. Like, I'll give an example. Like a dress for a man. I saw this guy who was wearing a dress, but it was clearly tailored for a man, because it was almost like a business suit, but at the bottom was a dress.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, I mean, I would of course never be in that, but it was actually a masculine dress. I was like, what is this? That's kind of interesting, right? Like, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of y'all remember the guy that he wears heels and a skirt to work every day, his everyday life, but he's straight. He has a wife and kids, but he just says that it makes him feel good. It makes him feel confident to be able to express himself this way. And everybody was just like, well, just come out the closet. You're gay because you want to wear heels and a skirt. And I'm like, y'all do realize that back in the old days, men originally heels were created for men. They were. And so were certain long garments. I won't say dresses. I would say long garments were, and also wigs were also made for men too. So I mean, why the powder? Look up why the powder wig was invented. Look it up. They were made for men. But and that's why if you ever seen Shrek, I think it's Shrek 3.
Okay.
Or is it Shrek the final chapter? It's one of them, but the one with Rumpelstiltskin, when he's like, he has all the different wigs. Like, bring me my angry wig.
That's pretty good.
But yeah, when it comes to clothes, and as somebody that used to be on here, Derek Jones, says clothes have no gender. I don't think clothes have a gender. I just think we made it to where this is for a woman, this is for a man, that type of thing. And I think it's all, yes, you have the right to express yourself. You have the right to be comfortable in your expression or whatever. The rest of the world may not like it, but you have that right. You should be able to walk around and express yourself without feeling like you gotta change yourself to be liked by the rest of the world or whatever. But yeah, I mean, as far as this whole agenda thing, I keep telling people there is no agenda. Y'all are just mad because it's being seen more. It's in mainstream now. Back when it was in the shadows and we were hiding, well, not hiding, but okay, we'll call it hiding, because we had, but it wasn't looked at or talked about as much. Y'all were okay with that, but then when it started becoming a normal thing and it got being seen more, now you're like, oh no, they're attacking us. They're coming for our masculinity. They're gonna recruit us. They're gonna come for us. And I've always asked. I want to ask this of especially a straight man that is 6'3" or 6 something, got 300 pounds of muscle on him. Okay, I would have asked somebody that's something from it, and they had to ask. I'm like, okay, so look, you're this 6'3" person. You got about 200 to 300 pounds of muscle on you. You like you can defend yourself pretty well. You want to tell me you're afraid of one man, one person that's gay, taking your manhood? Seriously, like physically doing it, like.
Yeah.
And they might be about what 5'8", 5'7", maybe $150 something weight, and you're scared of them.
Yeah.
Seriously.
One of the things I was thinking about, that there's physical threat and then there's status threat, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there is this idea, like he said in the video, that a good way to get at a man's status is to say that he's either gay, a snitch, or that he's broke.
Right. Yeah.
All of those are statuses, right? Statuses of being straight, being in solidarity with other Black people. And this is something I come to realize, snitching or no snitching goes back to pre-slavery days. So there were, I remember I was telling you I was listening to a Black American history lecture on the Great Courses series, and how common Black slave revolts were. To give you an example, 1 out of every 10 slave ships that came across the ocean had some sort of revolt on them. There were about 20 slave revolts a year leading up to the Civil War, right? Where multiple people were killed, because they were planning or actually carried off a insurrection on their plantation. And one of the very common ways that these slave revolts ended was somebody snitching on them. It was very common because a lot of these slave revolts were understandably a suicide mission, right? Like they knew that they were probably not going to succeed, but it was kind of like the conditions were just so horrible that they were like, I don't care if we succeed or not. I'm going to do something. I'm going to revolt. And then there was probably someone else who got word of this and said, oh, I can get maybe a privileged position at this plantation if I snitch on everybody. And that's typically how a lot of these slave revolts ended. I think there's like a deep-seated hatred of snitches in the Black community because so like cooperating with authorities is just a thing. That is a thing. It's real. And it comes from the fact that when there were actual bombings and riots, even after civil rights, like in the 1920s in particular, there were hundreds of uprisings throughout the North and cities. That was also tied into that same era as the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre. That a lot of people are now just learning about. But even before that happened, the summer of 1919 saw something like 20 something riots very similar to that, where entire neighborhoods were burned to the ground. And the police didn't do shit. They just kind of sat back and waited for these neighborhoods to be destroyed, and then they would come in later to restore order. And so like seeing things like that definitely instilled this idea of snitches get stitches. Fuck the police. It goes way back before NWA, you know what I'm saying? Like it is. And then of course status of being broke. At the intersection of white supremacy, capitalism, and patriarchy, Black men had some status, right? Especially if you had money. There were Black men who were voting way before any woman of any race was voting, and before poor Black people across the country were able to vote. And there was a way in which certain Black people of a certain status wanted to maintain that privilege even while being marginalized, right? And so I think that's where long story short, I think that's where the fear of homophobia or fear of status threat of this gay man touching you is that you have to have this overtly negative reaction to being
Yeah.
to possibly being gay, to try to negate the status threat of being possibly conceived as gay. Now, here's the thing, though. I think the way that we get away from this, and something that needs to be understood globally and by the mainstream media, is that the best way to say that someone is gay is to see them overreact to status threat, right? That overreaction is the biggest tell ever.
Like,
it may not
okay.
mean you're gay, but it means that you fucking care about being perceived as gay so much that you would overreact. Like,
Yeah, just like when the accusation about Meek Mill came out the other day, somebody talked about it, how somebody said that in the video that he overreacted when he was accused of being gay, because he said, I love pussy. I'm about to go fuck some pussy right now. He did this whole big overreaction thing, and I'm just like, dude, you did not have to do all of that. That you're trying so hard to prove that you're straight and prove that you're masculine, that you were just going like all over the place just to prove it. I'm like, and like a teacher of mine said a long time ago, if a man is straight and he's confident in that, he doesn't have to do anything to prove it.
Right.
There is no reaction. But when you call somebody gay and the first thing they want to do is like, I'll fight I even had somebody say, I'll fight every dude in here to show how straight I am. I thought, I'm like, sir, why do you have to fight people to show that you're straight if you really are? Just calm the fuck down. Just sit there and be like, hey, you call me whatever you want, but I know at the end of the day, I know who I am. You know what I'm saying? I know what I got going on, but you call me whatever you want to call me and think whatever you want to think, And it's just crazy how these straight dudes overreact about stuff. I just be like, God, is it that deep for real?
Yeah.
Not.
For some people it is.
Yeah, it is. But we got some comments here from
let's go through.
Sammy says, why is it the guys who feel there's an attack on black masculinity are always the ones who will sexually assault a female career with manhood? And yeah, unfortunately, that is something that they do, and it's a deep subject that we won't get into today, but we'll pin this and come back around.
It goes back to that. Remember that online discourse about man v bear?
Yep.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, it goes back to that.
Yeah. Being clean cut and complete groomed doesn't mean total agency.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. No. I feel guys who are complete groomed are afraid of appearing old in their actual age. Always try to be a part of the younger generation. A 45-year-old man does not look good. Well, that depends. That's a matter of perspective. But I know the other day at work there was this like 45-year-old white guy. I was like, and I looked and I'm like, why are you sagging at 45 years old?
Oh God, that's so bad. Yeah, that is. Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. Well, his choice.
Yeah,
that's a choice. His choice. But at the same time, I'm just going. You see, even all the other. When I see the African American guys, some of them kind of do it a little bit, but not as much as him. I mean, I can tell what the pockets were. I'm like, you are sagging. Why that hard at 45 years old? I'm just like, I know people. It's their choice. You shouldn't police it, as they say. But I'm just like. And you work out here on the railroad where you you know what?
Yeah.
It's you. It's your choice. Okay. By the time he should have matured into his grown and sexy face, letting his nut Sammy, not his nut saying, living for the love of himself. Whoever float through, just float unless he's feeling him. Okay. Tim says, I think MAGAs want to go back to that great time. They want their powdered wigs and the white powdered makeup and their heels. And don't forget the stockings either. Them long white stockings that they used to wear too. Yeah, they want those back. Yes, the monster boys are usually the most vulnerable because they either aren't the brightest or so shallow you can bait them with workout and protein bar.
That's funny.
I showed up too late. Hey, AK, what's up? We appreciate you. being here anyway. Did you get around to explaining how homophobia is an overreaction to wanting to be part of a majority group to distract from features that might other you?
Mhm.
Okay, I don't
Yes,
know what.
yes, we kind of
Yeah,
did.
yeah, we did a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But um, the squeaky wheel wants the grease. Yes, and just like I said
Mm.
in the video you showed with Tank is the one I'm talking about. Because Conscious Lee, I love Conscious Lee. I like the way he talks and the way he breaks things down. Um, and he's like he responded to that video with Tank talking about calling a black man gay is the biggest way to trigger him and bait him and all that. And and he talked about what homophobia really is, and people like because he said I've had black men come to me and be like, phobia is means being scared of. I ain't scared of no gay people. I just don't want them near me. It's like no, wait. Let's really break down what the definition of homophobia. It's not about being scared of them. Oh my gosh, like first of all, we have nothing to be scared of. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing
I
to
think
fear
that
with us.
this is true. I do think that the term homophobia is a little outdated, but at the same time, people did call it something like the gay panic defense, which is a legally usable defense
Mhm.
where people have killed someone and they would say they thought that this person was gay and hitting on them, and that was enough to like trigger something in their brain
Right.
for them
Mhm.
to lose all reasoning and to kill someone, right? And so
Mhm.
like that was actually and still is legally permissible, not often successful, but still usable in court and
Oof.
has been used as a perfectly legal defense of murder, which is
Mm.
crazy. So
This,
yeah, homophobia is still considered, and it's not about being afraid of the person who is gay, but it's being afraid of being perceived as gay.
yep.
That
Mhm.
is a fear that
Exactly.
people
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
And then there's another video of a guy at the gym, and he's in the pool area or whatever in the hot tub. And okay, so there's a guy behind him because he's filming it. He's like, yo, this dude over here he keeps staring at me. I ain't with that gay shit. I wish he'd go somewhere with that. And the guy is staring, but I kind of look at the video. I'm like, he's not really staring at you. I think he's just staring into space or staring past you. And it looks like he
Mhm.
has something going on mentally where he's just stuck in. Maybe either I feel like people are like he's autistic or he's just on the spectrum somewhere where
Yeah.
he's just like staring in a direction or staring up into space and not really,
Right.
conscious of what he's doing.
Right.
So and he turned around and talked about, so are you good? And the guy does not respond at all. The person doesn't even respond. He's talking about, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, see, he responded. You enjoy your. He talked about it again. You enjoy your workout, and the guy still doesn't respond unless he responds a little bit to where it's noticed by him, but not really everybody else. And I'm just like, the dude didn't even respond to you. Like,
Why
are
are you
you
overreacting?
right?
Yeah.
Well, you're really overreacting. And he talking about something. Yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and get out of here before I do something I shouldn't do, or I regret, or I'll be in jail because he keeps staring at me. I ain't with that gay shit. But these zesty disciples need to go on with that shit. I'm like, sir. First of all, speaking from my perspective of gay man, you're not that attractive anyway. You look dusty and broke, as they say. But I'm just like, sir, you look dusty. First of all. Second of all, you might be attracted to somebody, but on a scale of 1 to 10, in my opinion, you're about a 4, maybe a 3 on maybe 3, maybe a 4 on a good day. So you are not that attractive to where you got to be doing all this overreacting for what? You just doing this for clicks and views, and just to go viral for no fucking reason. Like, stop,
Yeah.
just stop.
Well, I was gonna go back to one of the comments they was making about homophobia. Let me see if I can find. I can't remember. I didn't want to interrupt while we were going through it, but
Hmm.
um this idea that let me see if I can find it. I can't remember. Yeah, I guess was one of those things where I lost my train of thought, but I don't know. I think there is this idea that people can be afraid of status threat without um you know how do I put it? Like in certain circumstances, they don't see this as being hatred, right? Like they
Hmm.
may have gay friends or whatever, and they say like, "Yeah, I'm cool with gay people," unless they make me question my status or whatever. And I noticed that there are situations in which it's not even dealing with homosexuality, for instance. It's just a man challenging another man to their dominance, you know? And so they're
Mm-hmm.
not even really like um threatening their sexuality, saying they're not saying that you're gay or whatever. They're just saying like, I'm bigger and badder than you.
Yeah.
Like I could whoop your ass.
Yeah.
And
I'm
so
a
like
real man.
I'm a
You
real
know,
man.
that's
And so
it.
yeah.
Yeah, like okay.
And so there was this study taken about the way that men and women socialize. And one of the things they said was like, I guess this is straight men and straight women, but maybe it goes with different sexuality and gender expressions. Women tend to associate and socialize face to face,
Mm-hmm.
like over cocktails or coffee or dinner, and they look at each other. Whereas men tend to associate facing a screen or watching sports or, some other activity like think of the tableau of what was that show? I can't remember. King of the Hill,
Mm-hmm.
where the men are like standing in a row, shoulder to shoulder,
Yeah.
standing at the lawn. Like men socialize shoulder to shoulder, whereas women face each other. And one of the reasons that is that men are socialized and maybe even biologically attuned to associate and look for threats in their environment. And
Mm.
so another person looking at them and staring at them can be perceived in their mind as a threat and not friendly. And so one of the ways that we bypass that is when we associate with each other, we don't look at each other. There's a thing, and that's the thing, and we can then associate that also with homophobia and status threat. That's saying gay, we associate gayness with weakness.
Yeah.
So saying someone is gay may not even necessarily about sexuality, but just saying like you're a beta and I'm an alpha, and you're a
Mm-hmm.
beta because you're gay.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. Well, you're a weak dude because gay dudes are femme and
yeah,
they're like they try to be women and want to be looked at as women and all this good stuff, and you're just weak and not knowing that a gay person can whip your ass
I know,
and
right?
steal you. Look, y'all stop thinking that just because someone's gay means that they're weaker than you because you're gonna be in for a real big surprise when you end
Yeah,
up talking about how did I get in the hospital? Oh, the gay dude broke your arm. You know, they beat your ass to the point where you had to be
yeah.
hospitalized.
Because I
Yeah,
was just
man,
saying
stop.
some of these very highly feminine gay men have had to
Hmm.
fight their entire life. Where it's like
Exactly. Like we
I
are
fight
like Miss
all my
Sophia.
life.
Right, we are like Miss Sophia. All our life I had to fight. And yes, some of us had to fight. Yes.
Basically. So yeah, there's that. And they know how to fight. So don't
Right.
they know
Okay.
how to cut a bitch.
Yeah. Have you ever seen them? There's a movie called is it Tuki or Tootsie? No, I think it's
Tootsie.
Tootsie.
Yeah.
The
Hmm.
Tootsie. And the main character is a black drag queen, and
Yeah.
he sees his white friend getting uh jumped, or I think he's about to be attacked. And he socked one guy real good with a good old cross and knocked him out and everything. And the white guy goes, "We're going to fight like that." Well, my daddy taught me. My daddy said to me that if you gonna be in this life, you're gonna know how to fight and defend yourself. So he gave me boxing lessons.
Yeah.
Hey, looking at Ali, who's a martial artist. I'm a martial artist. Um, a lot of people like Doc
Yeah.
is a boxer. I mean, y'all think that we don't like to do sports, we don't like to do nothing active. Oh, we do, we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Trust us. Like
That's a good
y'all
one
go,
too. We were talking about like learning how to increase your intuition. I didn't think about that one.
yeah.
Boxing lessons or martial arts is
Mm-hmm.
definitely a good way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on that note, we're gonna end it here, and thank you to our patrons. We will catch you later. We always appreciate you, Sammy, and to Nate, and to everyone else who was on
Yeah.
here. The feedback is always appreciated, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll catch you on our next episodes.
All right, y'all. Peace out.
Bye.